Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Well, hello there, and welcome to WTA Weekly. It's always great to have you guys on, and it's always fun when we can check in with our resident, probably the most frequent true expert on tennis that comes onto the channel, and that is Mert Atunga. Mert, nice to have you back. How are you doing?
Delighted to be here, Nick. It's always fun to talk to you, and hello to Nick, to John, by the way.
Oh yeah, so always shout out to John. Always grateful when he can put the two of us together and make this a fun place to talk about tennis. And there's a little bit to talk about from Wuhan. Let's be honest, last WTA 1000 of the year, and we ended with Coco Gauff picking up her second title of the year. There are some people out there who will count the United Cup, which I guess you could kind of sort of say she won if it was a WTA tournament. I'm willing to give it sort of, we'd say it kind of counts, but say second proper trophy in her own right of the year. And I think this one will probably settle some, I guess, I guess I don't know if concerns about her season is the right way of going about it, because she won a Grand Slam. Like, it was going to be a great season, but there was this whole kind of discourse going about whether who's had the better season, her or Anna Samova. And I think hopefully this has kind of put that to bed. Yeah, a second trophy of the year, and this makes it feel like that she's been. It shows that she is still a consistent force in tennis right now.
Yes, I would agree, and also, if we're just counting the titles, sure, you can say Anisimova won, two 1000s, and now Coco wins this and solidifies that so to speak reputation that of which you speak. But I also would like to point out that, and I'm sure you may have pointed out this in the past, is that Coco Gauff consistently reaches the latter stages of tournaments. She's consistently there in the semifinals, finals, and quarterfinals. So I would definitely put between those two, I would put Coco Gauff's year one step ahead of Anisimova's, as great a season as Anisimova's had.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think I'm a big sort of defender of Coco Gauff, although let's face it, she doesn't need that because she's a fantastic defender in her own right, on the court and off.
Yes.
And you're right. Like, she's such a prolific match winner on the tour. And this is why I will always keep putting her in the same category as Sabalenka and Swiatek, not just because they're right next to each other in the rankings, but the sheer numbers of matches these players win. You have to keep Coco in the conversation, no matter how she's playing, because she finds a way to win it.
Yes, you could even make an argument for just 2025, claiming that, there's the big three, as in Sabalenka, Swiatek, and Gauff. And perhaps, you could choose among two or three other players, a fourth person to kind of complete the quartet. But I would say that Coco Gauff is right up there, because Sabalenka, Swiatek, and Gauff have now not only stayed on top of the game, but they've sustained it for a number of years.
Yeah.
And for what you would consider to be an elite player performance over a long period of time. So I would definitely agree with you, and I would put Coco Gauff right up there with Sabalenka and Swiatek at least in this decade, 2020s.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, she's frequently beating them as well when
Exactly.
they're coming up head to head. Like when they do play each other, I think, if you just did the rivalry based on the year, I think Gauff's beaten Swiatek both times they've played this year. And I think it's 1-1 between Gauff and Sabalenka. I think they've only played twice this year. I'm going completely off memory.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So it's 1-1. So really, if you like, her head to head with the two players above her is 3-1, which is pretty good, I would say.
Yes.
And so she's always going to be in the mix there. And yet, I find that whenever I make this statement, there's always a little bit of pushback with, but Gauff's not a complete player yet, or Gauff has all these problems. So, which probably for me leads us nicely into, let's talk about her run to the Wuhan title, because she's been working with Gavin McMillan. She's been making kind of these changes to try and deal with the service problems that she's been having. Would you say that this Wuhan run is reflective of these changes coming good, or would you say it's still work in progress, but she had a good week, as she has always done throughout her career?
I'd say it's a work in progress still. She did have serve trouble in this tournament also. But Nick, that's a very the pushback that you're getting and the statement that people are offering as counter argument to what you're saying. I'm on your side for sure, 100%, and I think that's a very elastic statement to say that someone doesn't have everything, her whole game settled down, so therefore we should not include them in the same. I mean, you could make an argument that Sabalenka doesn't have every single detail of her game settled down either. You could make an argument the same for Rybakina. You could even make that argument for Swiatek. For a while, her forehand was a point of discussion, or her volleys and so forth, and the fact that she doesn't use slice or drop shots versus other players. So I think you have to, at the end of the day, every player has certain strengths, 2, 3, or 4 of them, and every player has 1 or 2 weaknesses. And you have to consider how far their strengths carry them, and that is proven in terms of results. And what Coco Gauff is getting out of her strengths is she's probably maximizing her strengths more than any other player. Her footwork is phenomenal. She's got a great backhand. Her forehand has been a point of discussion, but if you take out the first few games against Paolini in the semifinals, her forehand did well in the rest of the match in the semifinals against Paolini, and also in the final against Pegula. So, and she has the ability, the mental toughness to compartmentalize the troubles that she may be having with a certain shot. So at the end of the day, you got to look at the whole package and see what kind of product that the player is putting out with the materials that they have in possession, and judge it based on that, rather than nitpicking a certain shot and saying, well, she doesn't have that shot settled down yet, so therefore I cannot consider her in the same elite group as a couple of other players, without then giving the same scrutiny to the other couple of players. And if I were to compare Gauff to Sabalenka or Swiatek shot by shot or skill by skill, there are multiple areas where Coco Gauff performs better than them. So it's I think it's a mute argument to nitpick on a specific shot and look at the product, and the product is up to par with the 2 other players.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. And I think the other thing kind of gets leveled sometimes is Coco loses more often, or loses more matches, or loses to a wider range of players. And actually, I was looking this up, and I think both Gauff, Swiatek, and Sabalenka, all 3 of them have lost to about 11 different players, 11 or 12 different players each this year, with a similar amount of total losses. So actually, given the kind of seasons that they're having, I'd say this big 3, as we can talk about, is actually probably producing very similar level, and it's enough to keep them above the field and be the ones most often in the mix. I have to say, I'm just having a look at this and zeroing in on Wuhan this week. I've just seen Gauff hasn't dropped a set this tournament. And actually, you know, okay, apart from a few wobbly bits, which let's face it, there's plenty of straight set wins by great players, even of the current era, like Swiatek or Sabalenka, but even in the past, like a Serena Williams. They've, like, the scorelines that always reflect any moments where they might have got broken and then immediately fix the situation in the match. But yeah, she didn't drop a set in Wuhan, and I'm literally going off memory here because I've only just realized this. Did she? I don't know if she's done that before, like won a title without dropping a set. And it's kind of, again, showing that caliber of player. For you, Mert, like, I'm not saying that, I don't think either of us watch every single match that Coco played this week. But from what you've seen, what do you think was carrying her to that Wuhan title and made her that kind of class above the field and really tough to beat?
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I would go with her footwork for one thing, and her ability to not give away any gifts when push comes to shove in the scoreboard. You know, those 30 all points, the deuce points. When the other player begins a comeback and gets to a point where they can get the upper hand on her, and all of a sudden she clamps down and is able to come up with either good shots or simply say to the other player, look, yes, you made it back to where you are now. You made it level ground, but let's see if you can do even better now if you want to get on top of me. And she doesn't allow that. You know, we saw a great example of that in the final, you know, against Pegula. When push came to shove, Pegula faltered. Even though she hit some good shots, she had to produce, all of a sudden, instead of 1, 2, 3 good shots, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. And at the end of the day, it's Pegula, who plays with a low margin, ended up making the mistakes, you know, at the end of the second set, especially. But even you know, if you look at that first set, and I don't want to go into the final specifically, since, you know, you haven't brought it up yet because you're talking. I think your question was more in general. You know,
Feel free to segue, Matt.
I'm sorry.
Feel free to segue, Matt.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I can look in the final, for example, right? We have that 4-all game in the first set, which is super interesting because it was on the heels of a great comeback by Pegula. Pegula was down 1-4, and she comes back storming to 4-all, goes up 15-love on Coco's serve, love 15, and she's at that moment, Pegula seems to be in control. It looks like, okay, she's making another comeback. You know, she has made comebacks within sets. Pegula has throughout the tournament or throughout her career, and here she is pulling another one, we're thinking, and she gets to 4-all, love 15, but then Coco serves in that game 4 great serves. Like she wins 4 free points off of serves. She did mix in a double fault, yes, but she managed to keep a cool head enough to mix in 4 great serves to recover and then make that a game, you know, a tough game for Pegula to win. And Pegula has to hit a couple of winners to kind of, you know, go with the deuce add type of thing. Pegula does get a chance at 1 deuce to put a ball away. She's kind of on top of the net on a high backhand, and she nets it. She misses it into the net. And yes, it's an unforced error, you can say, per se. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I'm getting this one chance to put the ball away, and this is not even for the game. It's just so I can get a break point. And and under the pressure, she puts it away because she knows she has to come up with an incredible shot because Coco is getting everything back at that moment, and she's serving well. And so she put that doubt into Pegula's head, even though Pegula is on a great run here. You know, 3 games in a row. She's playing very well, and it looks like she's going to gain control of the first set and win it away. And all of a sudden, Gauff is getting everything back, making Pegula play, serving great serves, getting free points, and she halts. She literally interrupts Pegula's run and holds serve there to go up 5-4. And in the very next game, Pegula is up 30-love. So when Gauff went up 5-4, and Pegula is up 30-love on her serve to make it to 5-all to kind of keep that, you know, set going longer. Pegula once again has a shot at a backhand, not close to the net this time, a little more difficult from inside the baseline, but one that she can accelerate and hit a winner on, and just doesn't do enough with it. And what does Gauff do? Immediately turns it back into a neutral rally and makes Pegula move side to side, makes Pegula feel like she has to come up with bigger and bigger shots, and Pegula ends up making the mistake. And then at deuce, in that 5-4 game, Pegula is kind of out of answers because she's hitting one great shot after another, and Gauff is getting everything back. And she ends up trying a maligned backhand slice, Pegula does, which ends up going into doubles alley and gives Gauff the set point. And then all of a sudden, so you have this situation where, up to 4-all just maybe 7 minutes ago in that match, it looked like Pegula was gaining control. And then boom, 6 minutes later, Gauff is walking to the sideline with the first hit in her pocket, 6-4. And this kind of stuff happens all the time in Coco Gauff's matches. See, this is not something you can point to, Nick. You cannot say like, oh my God, all of a sudden she hit great forehands and won the match, or oh my gosh, she all of a sudden got her first serve working and won the match. This is not that apparent. You have to watch closely and see what Gauff is conducting out there. It's almost like a surgeon making an operation, and successful one at that. And the other player is kind of watching and not really understanding how it's happening that while she's playing well, she's not winning points. And this plays tricks in your mind. So I think a lot of Coco's wins is based on this type of intangible that you don't clearly see on the screen or when you're watching live. So you tend to think, okay, well, maybe the other player played bad or she got lucky or whatever. But this is a quality that Coco Gauff has that she does better than any other player on the circuit.
Yeah, and we see that in the Sabalenka rivalry, right? How many times has Gauff driven Sabalenka mad in this sense? Like Sabalenka,
you are so correct. Even the first major title that Gauff won against her, right, in 2000, the same thing happened there too. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think you kind of jumped. I think you made a good point there. So we've seen her be able to do that. I mean, you say that Coco doesn't usually give gifts. We did wonder whether she had at the beginning of that second set when she goes 3-love double break down to Pegula, who, let's face it, made this match a real fight. 2 sets probably didn't reflect how exciting and close this match was. But again, to your point, like similar to that game you talked about, that you then see it magnified on a bigger scale with that comeback in that second set to kind of get the match back on terms. And then it's up to Pegula to try and wrestle them and then to back in her favor again.
Yes. 3-love. Pegula was up 3-love and 5-3 again. And same type of stuff happened, especially at the 5-3 mark. Those 2 games where she came back to 5-all, you can always look. I can't remember the exact point, but there were one in the 5-3 game, one in the 5-4 game where I thought Pegula could have done better. But in most of those, Gauff either did well or just didn't give anything away, or hit some great Pegula shots back deep enough to not let Pegula gain advantage in that rally itself right there. So, and then later on when Pegula makes a mistake, it looks like, oh, Pegula blew it. But actually, Gauff's persistence has a lot to do with how her opponents sometimes fizzle out with mistakes too. And I think at 5-all, when it got to 5-all, those last 2 games, the way Pegula made mistakes is kind of reflective of the mindset that a lot of Gauff's opponents go through, because they get to a certain point in the match and they're thinking, I played some pretty good points here. I should be up. I'm not up. What's happening here? What more do I have to do? And while they're trying to wrap their head around that, a couple of games go by and the match is over. And Gauff's concentration and footwork is exceptional. They're top of the line. They're top of the line.
Yeah, they always gets herself in a good position, gets everything back. Insane athleticism, and forces the opponent to play, and that's really, really critical to the game style. Like you have to step and you have to play to beat Coco Gauff.
Yeah, and also to your point about for example, this is why it gets so striking when Gauff does give points away. And when she went down 3-love in the beginning of the second set, she committed some double faults, right? And that glares at you a lot more when she plays than when somebody else plays, when somebody else has these double fault streaks, because it's so rare that an opponent of Gauff gets to win a point without hitting a shot, or maybe hitting one shot.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And it's great to see Gauff hit some form and confidence, because when she's confident, she's at her most dangerous and most effective. As with any player, it's not a quality that's unique to her. But it does feel like she might be peaking just in time for the WTA Finals, as she did last year when she won the title. And she's got some big points to defend. So this does feel like a very good timing in the season for her right now.
Nick, how does in the WTA Finals how important is it to be seeded 3 versus 4?
Don't think it makes much difference. I think because it's not set. I think it's like 3 and 4 in the same kind of. They're the only 2 seeds that can't play each other. Like
right.
3 could just as easily be in the same group as 1 or 2.
Okay, so it does make a difference between top 4 and 5 through 8, but not so much between, say, 3 and 4 or 2 or 5 and 6, for example.
Exactly.
Am I? Yeah. I mean, I'm not. I can't. I'm drawing a blank. That's why I'm
pretty
asking.
much. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, because it's obviously round robin based thing. So the only person that Coco Gauff knows that she's not going to play in her group is Amanda Anisimova.
Okay, I got you. And by the way, so we were speaking about the 3 players. It'd be nice if there's a 4th or a 5th one that can join them. Maybe Anisimova, we'll see, but she'll have to. She probably will have to sustain it for a longer period of time than what she has so far. But there's promise there, and another player, perhaps. I think Jessica Pegula has to be considered too, even though she doesn't have any major titles. We're looking at a player who's constantly going far too, has multiple slam second weeks, a bunch of quarterfinals, a semifinal, and a final, and has WTA 1000 titles, multiple finals, semifinals, and a couple of WTA 1000 titles. So, it'd be nice if when we're talking about Gauff, Sabalenka, and Swiatek, if we could add in 1 or 2 more players into that mix.
Yeah, because the narrative of definitely the last couple of years has been who's the 4th? Who is the 4th? And for a while it was Elena Rybakina, and then around about the middle of 2024 she faded for one reason or another. Health, off-court stuff, and she's been consistent, but she's not been quite super clinical since, which is why she's in the mix for the race to the WTA Finals, but not currently in a qualification position. And I think it's a good time to look at the race. Then it looked like maybe it could have been Madison Keys after she won the Australian Open, and there was that run to the semi-finals at Indian Wells that seemed to solidify like maybe her. Mira Andreeva winning back-to-back 1000s early in the season. She put herself in contention to be that 4th. And then now we're talking about Amanda Anisimova. And like I know you mentioned Pegula. Pegula's been one of those players kind of lurking who's had that potential to break in and occasionally does. But now it's Amanda Anisimova with those 2 Grand Slam finals and then winning in Beijing. And it does feel like she's probably having the most sustained momentum for player since Rybakina to be that 4th. So I kind of see where you're going with that, like hopefully, but it's kind of like at this point, trying to predict who the 4th could be is really, really difficult until we see someone actually put together that level of consistency, especially when you consider the level of competition between the players that we can see on the screen. Apologies for those who are listening to the audio version of the podcast, but we're looking at the WTA race at the moment, which is like 3 to 9. And it's so just people who might be listening rather than watching, it's Coco Gauff in 3rd, then Anisimova, then Pegula, then Keys, Andreeva, Paolini, and Rybakina. And I do feel like that's the list of people who are fighting for number 4 right now.
Yes. No, I'd agree with you. That and I'm looking at I think in order to be mentioned, the same same conversation as Sabalenka, Swiatek, and Gauff. They probably need to show something more next year. Like even if this year is great, it's already almost over. But those three players have shown that they can sustain that level over the years, over a longer period of time. And this is what one would hope that Anisimova or Pegula or whoever else can show. And you're right, Rybakina was in a great position to be that player, but not at the moment. So we'll see what happens. It's exciting. It's an exciting thing to follow, though.
Also, an exciting thing to follow is the race. So we have 6 players qualified for the WTA Finals in Riyadh, and they are Aryna Sabalenka, Iga Swiatek, Coco Gauff, Amanda Anisimova, Jessica Pegula, and Madison Keys by virtue of her winning the Australian Open. So that leaves 3 players trying to play for the remaining 2 spots: Mira Andreeva, Jasmine Paolini, and Elena Rybakina. Now, it is possible that all 3 of those players could be playing at Riyadh, because at the moment, Madison Keys has not played really since the US Open. There is some discussion that she's injured. So it remains to see if she shows up to Riyadh, but I think that she will want to if she can. So there might be a consolation prize in there for somewhere, but it's better to be in those 7 and 8 slots and be absolutely sure. I guess looking at this gap, so you've got Andreeva 200 points, about 200 points ahead of Paolini, just rounding to the nearest sort of round number. And then it's another kind of couple of hundred from Paolini to Rybakina. I guess depending on kind of results, I think Andreeva and Paolini are playing this week. I don't think Rybakina is. Are we kind of saying that Rybakina's challenge to make it to Riyadh is fading at the moment?
Isn't Rybakina playing Ningbo?
Oh, she might be. I may have missed her on the entry list because
I'm not 100% sure either, but I thought she was.
Yeah, she is. You're right. So Andreeva, Paolini, and Rybakina are the top 3 seeds in Ningbo. So Ningbo is actually going to be really, really important for the race.
Yes.
And actually,
where are they in the draw? Are either of them on the same? Who's on whose side?
Well, Rybakina's the 3rd seed, so I'm just looking something else up here. Just to say also, in Tokyo, Paolini and Rybakina are signed up to play Tokyo, which is interesting. But yeah, going to the draw, Andreeva and Paolini are the top 2 seeds. So Rybakina is in the Paolini half.
Okay. All right. That'll be an interesting watch for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason to watch Ningbo and see like what's going to happen, how that's going to develop. So yeah, maybe the answer to my question is let's see how Ningbo plays out, because Rybakina could win it, Paolini and Andreeva could go out early, and then it's like game back on for Rybakina.
Yes, for sure.
Although that's a tough opening round for her if it's Mboka or Yastremska.
That is, yeah, it is. And let's see who else. Mira is playing winner of Raducanu and Lin Zhu.
Yeah, probably Raducanu, unless Raducanu's still potentially suffering from any kind of physical problems that she showed in Beijing. Not Beijing, Wuhan.
But I think though, if she is, I'm not sure, Nick. But but I'm looking at. Wow, that's actually a tough section of the draw. Mira Andreeva's is. I don't know what kind of form Raducanu is in, but then there's Vondrousova Muhova, the winner of that plays Schneider. That's going to be a tough takeout for Andreeva. Her road is not easy, although she's not. Although Rybakina and Paolina are on the other side, I can't really count on Andreeva necessarily going far without trouble. So,
I'd agree with that. Yeah, and then potentially Alexandrova in the semis as the top seed, maybe Samsonova or Kessler. And then in you've got Rybakina, tough opening round against Mboka and Yastremska. And then she might have to deal with Clara Towson or Zeynep Somnes in the quarterfinals.
Zeynep won a great match today. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And then Paolini, Zhang or Kudermetova, and then would potentially play, I think Bencic would be the favourite against Starosubtseva. So no one's got an easy draw, but Andreeva definitely the toughest.
Yes. Well, we'll wait and see. That's going to be a great watch. That's something to to kind of schedule my day around, see if I can catch some of those matches.
Ningbo's in a crazy time zone for me though, so that's going to be tough to follow. But yeah, there we go. We've done a little Ningbo preview. Normally we do the previews at the end. We've kind of segued into that. But there we go. Key takeaway from Ningbo. Watch it for the WTA Finals connotations because it's going to be big for who qualifies for that tournament.
Yes. And also, I'm wondering, I have no clue, but I'm wondering how the surface or the conditions are, because I felt like in Wuhan, the conditions played a role. You know, it was hot and humid, and a lot of time that affects, the speed of the court. Court surface was apparently fairly fast, but a lot of times when we talk about court speed, it's not the only determinant factor in how the ball goes, right? It's also it's also the balls themselves. Do they fluff up easy? Do they stay compact? Or also court speed, and not only just the court speed, but also how much material there's on the court to make it rough, so that the balls fluff up or not. So that's you're looking at the court surface material, you're looking at the balls, and then there's the weather conditions. If is it hot, is it humid? If it's humid, it means slower conditions, but if it's hot, it means faster conditions. If it's hot and dry, it's really fast. But if it's hot and humid, kind of. Is it in the evening, in the afternoon? So a lot of that changes. But and that's a big. I think that's a big factor especially when you're talking about the three players that were in question, right? I mean, Paolini, Rybakina, and Andreeva, right? So the court conditions, the court speed conditions are going to be important also.
Yeah, and just to kind of elaborate on that point, Mert, what combination of conditions would these three players be hoping for?
If I'm Rybakina, I'm hoping for dry, nice sunny day, not so humid. If I'm Paolini, although Paolini is not necessarily just someone who just gets the ball back, right? I mean, she does take some risks on her baseline shot, but she depends on her quickness to get a lot of balls back and get in position and hit a lot of counter punch shots. So if I'm Paolini, probably a medium speed court, but at the same time, I'm okay with humid conditions, depending on who I'm playing against. And the balls, I don't know what balls they're playing with. They often play with Yonex balls in those Asian tournaments, but I didn't think that we would have this discussion specifically, so I didn't look it up. I should have looked it up, but if it's Yonex balls, they can fluff up quite easily. So it's going to depend a lot on that kind of stuff. But to answer your question, yes, if I'm Rybakina, I'd like faster conditions. If I'm Paolina, I'm okay with medium. I'm okay with slow. If I'm Andreeva, I'm also okay with medium. If I'm playing Rybakina, I want medium slow. If I'm playing Paolina, I want medium fast. It's going to depend on their opponents also.
So Mira is a bit more versatile, maybe, out of the options.
I would think so. Yes, because she can change, she can vary, she can hit high balls, but she can also smack the ball when needed. She hits a lot of heavy, aggressive returns. So does Paolini, but that's one of Andreeva's strong points. Her aggressive returns. So actually, a court where the ball bounces high on a second serve is of advantage to Andreeva. I mean, we can go on and on about those little details.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here before we return to Wuhan and go through some of the other stories from the tournament. Can you help me do some more player myth busting here, Mert? Because we started doing that a little bit with Coco Gauff.
Okay.
So one of the prevailing things I see going around on tennis Twitter are two kind of allegations, allegations being a very tennis Twitter word, of certain flaws in Andreeva and Paolini's game, or perceived flaws or perceived labels. And they are that Andreeva does not have a big weapon and that Paolini is a quotes pusher. And I don't see much evidence of that in the way that they play.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to let you do your thing because I was about to go into what I see, but I want to hear about what you see in those two.
Okay, so say the first one about Paolini. She's a pusher.
Yes.
Okay.
So pusher defined as someone who just gets the ball back and moves the ball around and doesn't really do anything to attack.
Yeah.
Or put the ball
no,
I'm going to ball in kind of a middle of the court rather than towards the edges.
I'm going to push back on that a little bit. Paolini is not by any means a rallier. She looks to move the other player around, and she can accelerate just fine. Her backhand down line accelerations are sometimes superb, but because she's not a tall player, she doesn't have a huge serve. She serves very well, by the way, for her size, and in many matches that I've seen. But I would agree that she doesn't have one big power shot, but I would definitely not put her into a pusher category. She's not one of these clay court players who spins everything back. And for example, you can make an argument, as much as we praise her, you can make an argument in some matches that Coco Gauff pushes the ball, just gets the ball back in play and just frustrates the opponent and collects mistakes. You could make that argument, not in every match, but in some matches. But when Paolini plays, I don't necessarily see someone who just keeps the ball in play deep and gets every ball back until the other person makes a mistake. Okay, she has a pretty good slider on the serve, for example, out wide, which then she follows up with the attempted winners to the open court. So Paolina does these kind of stuff. I would agree that she's a baseliner, mostly. That I would agree with. And I would agree that she relies on her footwork to get the balls back, but I would not say that she's a pusher when it comes to rallying speed of her shots.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So
yeah,
you spotted what I was saying thing, and I spotted, which is like, she moves her opponent around, gets them out of position, and then can hit a deep winner into the space, and they've got no hope of reaching it. Like she can accelerate when she wants to, and
Nick, that's a great point. I mean, on her forehand, for example, she has a pretty slap forehand. She kind of takes her elbow back early, and the racket head kind of leans up, and then she slaps through the ball. She's got great ability to accelerate on her forehand due to that. And it's not one of these forehands where she just kind of, top spins it back into the court deep.
No, I don't think it is. So, I definitely see her accelerating a lot through the ball, or definitely trying to. She's trying to keep the paint pin back, and also her return is killer because we saw that against Swiatek. I mean, she was basically just crushing returns throughout the first set and the second, and that was what was pushing Iga onto the back foot. And she can
Paolin is one of the great returners on the WTA side. Yes, definitely.
All right. So then we'll go on to Andreeva, who is seen as someone like has got a great tennis IQ, great defense, can again maneuver rallies into her favor. But again, kind of like what you're saying, like there's a sense that she doesn't really have a killer shot, which again, I'm pretty sure I've seen her hit some nice winners. She doesn't necessarily go for them all the time. A bit like Kasatkina.
Here's where I'd argue against this. I think Andreeva has one of the best backhand down the line accelerations in women's tennis. And that's a very, very valid or effective shot in women's tennis, or in men's tennis too, for that matter. If there was such a stat to keep throughout all open era players to see which shot is hit the most, which out of the four basic ones: forehand cross court, forehand down the line, backhand cross court, backhand down the line. I would argue that backhand down the line would be by far the least used, the most common shot hit by tennis players. And because of that, a lot of players do not expect that. You see plenty of players who hit the ball to the opponent's backhand, and I'm talking about right-handed players here, who hit the ball to the opponent's backhand, and they immediately kind of position themselves towards their backhand corner because they're expecting a cross-court shot. Now, they may be doing that because they're just simply expecting that, or they may be doing that because they're going to move around and hit a inside-out forehand. They're going to run around their forehand. A lot of players do that too, yes. But many times, players who possess a good down-the-line backhand acceleration shot their opponents will find themselves all of a sudden having to run after a ball that they did not expect it to come. And Mira Andreeva hits that backhand down the line incredibly well, not only just during rallies, but also on returns. Woe betide the player who tries a kick serve to to Andreeva's backhand on the ad side. She moves into the court and she takes that ball on the rise and nails it right down the line. And the player, because of their serving position, is already on the other half of the court, and they find themselves at the very first shot of the rally, chasing and scrambling after a ball to their forehand corner. So I would not say to anyone who might say Andreeva doesn't have a big shot, I would say no. Her backhand down the line is one of the biggest weapons in women's tennis. She can accelerate that shot very well.
The backhand down the line. No wonder she's an Andy Murray fan.
That's right. That's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks for doing a little bit of that tangential myth busting there, Mert.
It's just, I agree that it's just one shot, the backhand down the line. And maybe if you talk about all the other factors, maybe there's an argument to be made there saying that she doesn't have anything big. But look, she's got plenty of that time to develop a second big weapon, a third big weapon. So let's give it a little bit of time also before we judge necessarily. We make extreme judgments like she doesn't have a big weapon.
Absolutely. All right. Someone who, again, I think is probably underrated in terms of their weaponry is Jessica Pegula. Not necessarily, partly because she's more of a counterpuncher, but she's so good at redirecting pace and angles. And I want to go back to her because I think she, for me, is one of the big stories from this tournament we just had in Wuhan, as well as Coco Gauff. And she helped make that final interesting. And she gave us probably the match of the tournament in that comeback against Aryna Sabalenka in the third set. Really scrapped her way and fought through this tournament. We've seen this from Jess all year, where she'll have this tournaments where she just fight for every match. That's how she won Charleston. That's how she's gone deep in a few other tournaments. For me, though, I think this win over Sabalenka is really, really significant because it's the first win she's had against her in a couple of years. Sabalenka seemed to have an advantage in the rivalry. To come back from 2-5 down, when maybe she could have been out of gas against Aryna Sabalenka in her backyard in a tournament she's never been defeated at. For me, I can't think of a more impressive result that I've seen from Jessica Pegula. Where are you at with Pegula after this tournament, Matt?
Okay, you kind of segued nicely into Pegula from Mira Andreeva, because I'm going to say a similar thing about Pegula, Nick. Because to me, her running forehand, okay, in other words, like her forehand on the run at the full stretch,
so good.
I'm sorry.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's Sampras-esque, Pete Sampras. Just to compare to another tennis player, not that it's a man or a woman, Steffi Graf, for example, on the women's side, who had one of the great running forehands too. But it's just on the full run, on the full stretch, she's able to produce some incredible counter punches. And a great example of that is that if someone wants to go back and look at it, she's up 3-1 in the final set tiebreaker, and Sabalenka, to me, hits a shot that would be a winner against a lot of other players, or at least even if they get to it, it's so powerful that they would make a mistake or hit or frame it and go up into the stance. And Pegula, because of her ability to stay low on the court in compact strokes, is able to stay low and kind of run and hit that on the stretch so hard, like a bazooka. Sabalenka's hard shot back like a bazooka, straight into Sabalenka, who at that moment moved into the court as in on top of the baseline, because she hit a fantastic shot. So she was expecting that a short ball comes back and then she can just put the ball away to the open court. And then all of a sudden this missile comes from the other side right onto her shoelaces at the baseline. And she scrambles and she's off balance and tries to get it back. And not only does Pegula get that shot back, but she nails that forehand, and Sabalenka scrambles for the ball and can't get it into the court. So and that's just one example for those who want to see exactly what we're talking about, if they can go back and look at the match. But she hits plenty of these. Just like you said, it's pretty good. It's quite stunning actually, because she doesn't have a flashy way of hitting it, like Steffi Graf did or Pete Sampras did on that run on the run forehand. It's very compact. She stretches out there. She's on the full run, and her backswing is not that big, and yet she's got such good hand-eye coordination, and she's got such good strike zone on the ball that she uses that ball's pace and some more with interest to send it back. And so you get these rallies in which you're thinking you're hitting good shots, and then they just come back flat, hard, with not much margin, and you have to react quickly back to that shot. And every player has trouble against Pegula with those kind of counterpunch accelerations that she hits. Gauff was able to win the match in the final, in my opinion, largely because she's so fast that she can use the quick little steps in place to get into position to get those backs, to get those back. But that's not the case for every player, and that wasn't the case for Sabalenka. So it's that running forehand. But again, it's a specialty shot. You're not going to win a match just with that shot, right? But it's one of these shots that plays an important role at crucial moments in the match, because it's kind of a devastating blow to the opponent. They think they won a point, and then half a second later, all of a sudden they lost that point. So it plays tricks on their minds. And but I think and what is interesting also is that in that final set between Pegula and Sabalenka began using her forehand down the line accelerations that she mostly avoided till then, and it was working. She went up. I think she went up early, a break in the final set, and she went up she kept that. She protected that break all the way to 5-2, and then at 5-2, Pegula 2-5 down. Pegula serves 3 aces, and serve is not her forte by any means, but she serves 3 aces. She gets to 5-3 and makes a statement saying that, look, Arena, you're going to have to win that match yourself. I'm not giving it to you, and from that point on, just, it was a big comeback that she sparked, and she goes up 6-5. She even breaks Sabalenka, right? She goes up 6-5. And then what happens? She commits 4 double faults herself in that game. One of them on a match point. So she's on a run. She's up 6-5 from 2-5 down. She goes up 6-5. She commits double faults during the game, has a match point, commits a double fault. She has one more match point where I think Sabalenka played it pretty well. And then she goes down a break point and ends the game with a double fault again. So kind of loses that game 6-all. And you would think that that would really drain her. She was down 2-5, did very well to get back up to 6-5, and had a chance to put the match away. Couldn't put it away. There's Sabalenka fighting, and now we're into a tiebreaker. You just had 3 minutes of nightmares with double faults and missed match points. But Jessica Pegula, just cool as a cucumber, plays one of the great tiebreakers. Final set tiebreakers that I've seen this year. So she's just so cool under pressure. She's very calm, and I think her cool demeanor helped her out in this case. And then she hit, like I said, in that tiebreaker, she hit that great forehand at 3-1. And what a way to finish! What a tiebreaker she played, considering that she gagged that 6-5 game away.
And that was the best follow-up to Beijing, where it could be argued that she kind of, she wasn't clutch in a couple of those matches.
That's right, Nick. That's a great point. Yes, go on. Yes, definitely. Go on.
She coming back from suddenly you're maybe doubting yourself after you had chances to win matches and go deeper in the tournament, and then you're out, and suddenly you're in Wuhan. You're fighting through every single match. So to I think that's kind of proved a point to everyone, including herself, that no, she's still in it. She's still playing these tournaments at a good level.
That's a great. I mean, that's a great statement to make, to win so many 3-set matches after that devastating 3-set loss, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a great moment to bounce back. I think it's going to be significant for her in that head-to-head with Sabalenka. I reckon she's probably thinking, why couldn't I have played like that at the US Open? Because that would have probably changed the story quite a lot. But yeah, I think Pegula is going to come away from this week. She's got herself in the WTA Finals into Riyadh, and she's going to be a contender. which I'm looking forward to seeing, how she matches up, because like she had a great WTA Finals in 2023, was injured in 2024. She's going to be a nightmare to deal with in the field, and I think any of them could win it. Let's be honest.
Yeah, isn't Pegula now top 10 player for the last 4 years or so? Actually, most of the time in top 5.
2022, since 2022, yeah. I think she ended 2022 in number 3. So yeah, that's right.
That's incredible. I mean, that's admirable that so late in her career she not only has this big jump late, she kind of jumped into top 100 late in her career and then into top 10 late in her career, but it's not one of these things where she's fizzles out after a couple of years. I mean, she's there, and she's a threat.
She is totally there, and we were talking about players who are like matching, who have consistency to kind of match the top 3 at the moment. Pegula is that player who has consistency. It's just not the same because traditionally she can challenge but doesn't always beat those 3 players. It doesn't necessarily go deep in some of the bigger tournaments. And so
Nick, a question for you. Sorry to interrupt. A question for you. Let's say Pegula wins a couple of WTA 1000s next year, or even 3, and ends up getting her first major title. Do we then consider her maybe possibly the closest to being that 4th player?
I think we'd have to. I think
so too.
Yeah, we'd have to. The only remaining question would be her age. How long would that last? Because no offense to Jess, she is, and like I'm saying this as someone who is the same age as Jess, pretty much. We're not getting any younger, and I'm not a professional athlete.
Laura Siegemund is your motivator.
Yes, she could still going at 37. So like Jess is a player who could still be going at 37 and still getting good results. So who knows? Maybe who knows? Maybe she'd get a good load out of that. But yeah, could Jess Pegula win a major? I don't see why not. She'd still be in my mix for like players on a power ranking. Probably should have put her on my US Open one. I didn't. I think it would completely change how we saw Jessica Pegula if she was to win a major.
Yeah, I think that at the top, the 2 players for me that's going to be interesting to watch how they perform in 2026 are Anisimova and Pegula.
Oh, yeah.
Just I'm talking the very top of the list. The among the elite players.
Yeah. But of course, a lot of 2026 is going to be defined by also how certain other 2 players perform that we keep mentioning, and maybe we should talk about their performances in Wuhan. Let's start with the person who we just mentioned playing Jessica Pegula, Aryna Sabalenka. She's finally lost a match in Wuhan. First tournament back after winning the US Open. Was resting from Beijing. I don't think we can read too much into this result. It was Jessica Pegula playing really, really well and playing quality enough tennis that you would expect to beat the world number 1. Sabalenka probably at the moment is still going to go to Riyadh feeling good that she can win this thing, and probably the favorite.
Yes, I would agree with you. And also let's not forget that it was a very close win. We could easily be sitting here and talking about Sabalenka still being undefeated in that tournament. It was a very close one.
Yeah, definitely close. And then Iga Świątek loses 1 and 2 to Paolini. I did catch that match. Actually, I know I said before recording I didn't. Then I remembered. No, wait, I did watch it. And to me that was more defined by Paolini basically knocking Świątek back and catching her by surprise by like how good her return game was. And that seems to be a pattern with Iga at the moment, is that when she plays someone who's returning really, really well, that she's in trouble.
Yes.
But I think even though she's lost a couple of matches now, I don't think the same alarm bells are running for Iga as they were before Wimbledon, because the difference is that she's not won a tournament in 3 weeks versus not winning one in 3 months. So she's still okay in my book.
Yeah. No, I mean, I saw this. I did not get to watch the match, so you one up on me. But I saw that Świątek won only 2 points in the whole match when hitting a second serve.
Yeah,
that's stunning. That's stunning. I mean, but then again, she was playing against one of the great returners of the women's game. So yeah.
I mean, I think it's also now put it into perspective that with the exception of Mukova, who legitimately pushed her in that final, the people that Swiatek's beaten in Grand Slams finals have all gone on to beat her at some point, and in some ways sometimes quite straightforwardly, like all straight sets, which I think when you look back on it, I'd say highlights how good Swiatek performed in those finals, that these are all players who had potential to beat her on their day. And, I guess it's like just to show like how much on the day matters in tennis. And I appreciate this sounds like me trying to like big ego up because I like her, but it was a pattern that I have noticed that like, you don't get anything for free. You still have to perform on the day. And that's why she's a 6-time major champion.
For sure. I think alarm bells would be ringing a lot louder for Iga had she not won Wimbledon and had she not won Cincinnati, for example. Then you could look at a year thinking, oh my gosh, this is a crisis year. But just like you said, when she's still showing that she can perform and outplay most of the field when time comes.
And she's still built on Wimbledon. Because she won Cincinnati and then she won in Seoul. So
that's right, Seoul. Yes, I totally forgot about. Yeah, that's right. It's not just Cincinnati. Yes, that's true.
No, in what was actually quite a good win against Alexandrova. Very tough comeback.
Yeah.
So she can still produce it. It's just how she. Again, I feel like the only difference is that maybe when you were going to the WTA Finals, she doesn't feel a step of the head. She's just in the mix with the rest of the field. I think that's maybe the only difference we're seeing in a way.
Yes. Yeah. No. You said you hit it on the nose earlier, quite accurately. I think it's Sabalenka slightly ahead of everyone else, and then there's everyone else. So we'll see how that works out. Yeah.
Do not bet on the outcome of the WTA Finals because
no.
Like all 8 of them, whoever they are, whether it's Paulini or Rybakina or Andreeva, who ends up being the alternate, or if Keith doesn't play, they all get in. Any of them can win it. You've got a 1 in 8, you've legitimate 1 in 8 chance of getting it right.
Yes, and nobody would call you crazy if you didn't pick any of the top 2 or 3 seeds to not make it to the. If you picked say 5th and 7th seed to play in the finals, nobody would call you crazy. At least those who follow closely. Yeah.
5th and 7th seed. Yeah, no, I don't think anyone would call you crazy if suddenly you ended up with a Jessica Pegula against Jessica Pegula Mira Andreeva final.
Yes,
it's 5 and 7 at the moment. I think.
Yes, it's not crazy. I agree. Yeah,
not crazy at all. All right, I think we'll start wrapping up the show there. Are there any other stories from Wuhan that you want to highlight, Mert, before we move on?
No, but I am. I noticed that the heat was a factor, and I don't know how the conditions are in other tournaments in Asia throughout the season, but I saw stats like 38 degrees, 39 degrees. That's brutal, and I think they interrupted some matches. Correct? Am I correct, Nick?
Yes.
Like they had periods of time where they wouldn't let matches start. It was like a heat rule in effect, and. Yeah, that's that because I feel like today's tennis requires a lot more physical effort, and there are some players who sweat a lot out there, and it's dangerous, So it's dangerous. So I was glad that they were enforcing some type of heat rule rigorously.
Yeah, I have a really good friend of mine who's from Hong Kong, and so obviously kind of in that kind of area. I mean, I've been talking to him about the tennis. He doesn't usually watch it, although he's very excited by Coleman Wong.
Yes.
I genuinely had, just a bit of a tangent, but I genuinely had it during the US Open where he was in my house watching the US Open, watching Coleman Wong play, and I was having to do work. So this is like the level of, because he wasn't working, so he could watch it. And he was getting very, very into that 5-setter he had with Andrei Rublev. Tangent aside, when I told him, oh yes, so they're actually playing around China now, and he was like, are they insane?
Was that the first reaction? Okay.
Like his first, are you insane? Why are you playing in China in October? Because like it's so humid, it's so hot. Like, why are you doing that? And the explanation is because the best time to play in Europe and the States is during the sort of Northern Hemisphere summer, when you want to play outdoors. And so where do you go in October? Well, you're only limited to a few options, and that's China or the Middle East or Australia or places like that. So who are still willing to do that. So yeah, that's the reason for it. But yeah, I think these conditions are probably not new for the players to deal with. They may be heightened for whatever reason. Maybe it's due to various factors to do with this particular year, to do with climate change, or it could to do with just the fitness levels of players at this point in the season, how they've developed. But yeah, generally, if having someone who's asked from like the continent nearby where they be playing, his reaction was, "These people are insane."
Okay, yeah, that says it all right there.
Yeah, but then he'd say that if you were talking to him about them playing in China in 2024 or 2023 or whenever, so not a new thing. So yeah, very quickly, let's mention Osaka, which is a 250 that's happening. And I do mean Osaka the place, but Naomi Osaka the player is the top seed and is already into the second round quite comfortably. To be honest, looking at this draw, she's the top seed. Linda Noskova lost today to Katie Bolter. She was the second seed. The other seeds being Elise Mertens, Leila Fernandez. That's your top four. Number 8 seed is Jessica Buzash-Menero. Alex Ayala is playing. She is playing another sort of up-and-coming teenager, Teresa de Valentova, in round 1. That's actually potentially quite an interesting match.
Yes.
But for me, I'm looking at, I think the story of this tournament is, how is Naomi Osaka going to perform? I think, is she going to carry the momentum of what seemed to be an improvement that we saw from her during that US Open semi-final run? And then the other player I'm kind of keeping an eye on is Leila Fernandez, because she's been really in the mix this Asian swing and lost some tough matches. And I'm interested to see how she will do against not having to deal with like the top players in the draw.
Right. For sure. A good run in this tournament or even a title would do wonders for her confidence too.
Yeah. Yeah, it would. It really, really would. Yeah, so that's kind of the story. Bianca Andreescu is playing. She's playing as well. So good to have her back as always.
Always.
That's kind of picking out highlights from this 250 draw. But I think that's just kind of all we need to say about Osaka right now, unless there's anything you're spotting from that you know about it, Mert, that you want to...
No, this is I don't really have anything significant to add to what you've mentioned.
Okay, fantastic. I think we'll wrap that up there. So, big week for Coco Gauff and Jessica Pegula, and for the WTA Finals field, and a big week for Talking Tennis whenever Mert Tunga joins us. Mert, thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you, Nick. It's always a pleasure to talk tennis with you.
Yeah, definitely a pleasure to talk tennis with you as well, Mert. And talking tennis with everybody in the live chat as well. And anyone who's been commenting, thank you so much. We will be back next week to round up everything that's happening from Ningbo and Osaka and look ahead to what will be the last 500 of the year and most likely be the decider for the WTA Finals field in Tokyo. So more to keep an eye on from the WTA Tour, and we'll bring you all the stories here on Talking Tennis. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. In the meantime, take care and keep talking tennis.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.